The playoffs, they're here in the NEPSAC. It's the most wonderful time of year. I'm Patrick Donnelly. This is Evan Marinofsky. We're going to get into the boys' NEPSAC playoffs today. Brackets just came out earlier today. We're recording this on Sunday. Evan, Elite Eight, small school, large school, what are your initial thoughts?
A lot of drama on Saturday. Westminster beat Belmont Hill, so Westminster did end up being a little bit of a spoiler. Belmont Hill falls out of the Elite Eight. Holderness loses to Kimball Union in the Lakes Region final. They get pushed out. Rivers and Nobles get bumped up. So definitely a sort of a surprise. I didn't know that. I thought Rivers might be done, but they end up getting the 7 seed. Really good first round matchup, and then Nobles gets in as the 8, even though they lost to Belmont Hill about 2 weeks ago. So it was down to the wire, like down to the 11th hour. There were changes. In the large school. Kent gets in, I think, like the last day or so of the year. Same with Frederick Gunn. In the small school, initially, I thought there was no chance that Taft could fall out, and they did. So wild day, wild last 2 days, that's for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama in seeing this final month in boys. Girls, it just kind of came down to the final like 2 days where there was all the drama. But we'll get into that in a separate video. Starting with the Elite Eight, you got Deerfield versus Nobles. We talked earlier this week on RinkWise about, Nobles probably being on the outs. All of a sudden they're in. You got St. Mark's versus Rivers, Dexter versus Salisbury, and Cushing versus Brunswick. What stands out here?
The 1 versus 8 matchup doesn't excite me too much. I really like Nobles. I think they've got, Kyle O'Leary and Billy McCausland, who have been two of the best players in the region this year. I don't know if that's enough to get them over Deerfield, who is on, I think, a 13-game winning streak entering the Elite Eight. So Deerfield's taking care of business against good teams. I think there is a scenario where Justin Lee, the '09 freshman goalie, goes off and suddenly, Deerfield's on the ropes. But I don't, we'll do predictions later in the week online. I don't think this is going to be one of my upset picks. St. Mark's and Rivers is interesting to me because this is a toss-up. This is not a 2 versus 7 matchup. I was at both games they played this year. They were both extremely close. St. Mark's won the first one at Rivers by a goal. Rivers won the second one at St. Mark's, basically by a goal. I think the third goal or the second, I think it was like 3-1, and the second goal or the final goal they scored was an empty netter. So it was basically a 1 goal game. And St. Mark's lost Evan Nee, their leading scorer, early in that game for like a slew foot. So I think this. I have a leaning. I'm not going to give it away yet, but this is a toss up. I think this is like an overtime game or definitely a 1-score game. This will be at St. Mark's. I think the big key for St. Mark's here is Justin Brisebois. Like in net, can he rise to the occasion? He's been the best. I think he's been the best goalie in prep this year. He's given the numbers he's put up, given the minutes he's played, just given the sheer amount of games he's had. And what he's done against good teams. So that's going to be their key. And for Rivers, it's their top six. Can their top six outscore St. Mark's? Can they break through Brisebois? Can they put some doubt in them early? I think that's going to be the big thing with Rivers. Then you have Dexter Salisbury. This is my potential upset matchup. I don't love this matchup for Dexter. I don't think this is who Dexter wanted or wants in the first round, given Dexter has struggled the second half of February, which really came out of nowhere. They were killing teams. St. George's, Andover, I mean, they were just doing whatever they wanted. Then they hit this really cold spot at the end of the year. Now, they have the offense to, they beat Salisbury offensively, but Salisbury's key here is historically, Salisbury is a really good team come the Elite Eight. I would say it's them and Kimball Union who are probably the two best Elite Eight teams of the last 10 years or so. So that's one reason I'd kind of be scared of Salisbury. And Salisbury's key, and this is going to be defense and goaltending. Can Steven Luciano, can the defense they have, Bard Gajdos and Colin Feely, can they shut down Dexter's top guys? Can they shut down Ryan Chudzinski and Sean Leach and Noah Servillis and Nate Porter? It's going to be tough. But if there's any matchup, I think that there is a true upset. This this is the one I'm leaning towards at the moment. Things could change. We could uncover some new statistics or something, but I don't love this matchup given how Dexter's performed over the last half month. And then Cushing and Brunswick I think it's another interesting matchup. Cushing and Brunswick played a couple weeks ago at Sacred Heart, and Cushing won 5-0. And these are two teams trending in completely different directions. Cushing has been red hot in February. Brunswick has not been. Um, what I find interesting though is when Dylan Lee Stack, the goalie for Brunswick, was at his best, Brunswick was near the top of the region, number one, number two, number three, number four, kind of in there. And Lee Stack's had a tough second half of the year. He's not been the same guy he was in the first half. Brunswick's key to me is Lee Stack. If Lee Stack can be as good as he was in the first half, I think Brunswick has a good shot at this game. But Cushing is hot. And Cushing to me has the best defense, at least on paper, in prep. So that's another toss-up matchup. But I'm not doing predictions here, Pat, yet. I'm not gonna start doing scores and
Oh,
who I think. I can't do it. We're gonna save that for when we do our predictions post later this week.
well, you're killing me because I wasn't gonna ask you to give it all away, but I was gonna ask you for one bold prediction if you can. But if not, it's
Okay, I'll give you one bold prediction.
one bold.
As of as of Sunday, March 2nd at night, so maybe it changes, but I doubt it does. My gut is telling me Salisbury's winning that game. My
Okay.
gut tells me that. And Dexter was our cover team. I think they're elite offensively. But if they can get some scoring from Connor Davis, Ryan Headley, Jake Novak, Oliver Morris, if they can do that, and that's an elite coaching matchup. Donato versus Will, Donato going against his former team. I think if I had to make one bold prediction from this crew, it's that Salisbury wins that. I don't have a predicted winner yet in this either. Like, who wins the whole thing? I don't know. I really don't, looking at that field. I'm not confident in any one team.
Yeah, Cushing's interesting because a month ago we weren't even considering them for the Elite Eight. All of a sudden, they're one of the hottest teams in prep. You look at Nobles, it's we can get into this, on the girls' side too. You made the Elite Eight, but at what cost? Um, and then, we'll also get into this with girls. I have some similar concerns about Dexter as a 3 seed against the 6 seed, but we'll save that for a couple minutes from
We're
now.
teasing it. We're teasing the
We
girls'
are. So
video.
go click on YouTube to the next video after this one.
Please do.
All right, so getting into the large school, you got Belmont Hill 1 versus Kent 8, Avon Old Farms versus Thayer, Phillips Andover versus Trinity Pawling, and Governors versus Westminster. What stands out here?
I think this has the chance to be the least chalk. And if there's any 1 versus 8 matchup, if you said, if a psychic came down and said, I don't know where they come down from, but if a psychic came in and said one of the 1 versus 8 matchups is going to produce an upset, I think I'd go with this one. I'm not saying I'm picking Kent, but Kent has high-end talent that underperformed this season. Belmont Hill's been susceptible to bad losses, especially in the final month. They lost to Westminster, which basically knocked them out of the Elite Eight on the final day of the season. They lost to Milton a week or so ago. So I wouldn't be stunned if Kent won this game. But again, it's a 1 versus 8, so you got to tread lightly. Avon and Thayer, I gotta be honest, I don't see a path for Thayer here. Like Avon going to Avon for a playoff game is really hard as is. That's one of the hardest environments to play in. And I think Avon just has too much high-end talent. Andover Trinity Pawling is another 3-6 that I kind of like the 6 seed here. This is really offensive firepower versus offensive firepower. Trinity Pawling with Lefebvre, who's a Vermont commit, Liam Lefebvre, Andrew Miglior, and Nick Peregrine have been 3 of the top scorers in the region. And Trinity Pawling has stunned a lot of teams this year. A lot of teams were sort of punched in the mouth by them, overpowered by them. Look at what they did to Brunswick on Friday night, beat them, I think, 6-4. So wouldn't shock me if Trinity Pawling went into Andover and got a win. And then you have Govs in Westminster, which again, a 4 versus 5 is 5 winning is never an upset, but Westminster's been red hot. And they have made noise over the last month. Jack Victorn has been outstanding in net. Would not surprise me if a 5 went in there and won against Govs. But Govs, Zach Erickson in net has been phenomenal too. So this could be a really good goalie matchup, a low-scoring game. Govs is really physical. Govs is a physical team, so they're not going to go easy. But I am very curious. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, two two upsets happened. I don't think Kent beats Belmont Hill. Wouldn't shock me, but I'm not going to predict that. But Trinity Pawling beating Andover, I could see it. Westminster beating Govs, I could completely see it. So those would be my two X Factor games.
Yeah, we'll count those as your bold prediction.
Bold
A
predictions.
lot of interesting teams here, like you mentioned. Kent, obviously last year's defending champions. Thayer was one about right after the holidays. We were talking about how hot they were, and all of a sudden here they are facing an uphill battle. Phillips Andover too, coming out of the Floodmar and a pretty good season overall. A lot of interest here in the large school bracket.
Yeah, I this is one of the brackets where like I think the small school field at the top, we'll get into this in a second, is really strong. I think top to bottom, the large school probably has a little bit of an edge over the small school in like your 6, 7, and 8 teams. I mean, Thayer, as you said, was in the Elite Eight mix. Kent, I want to say was a preseason top 10 team. They underperformed like crazy. So Kent could be a team where they're maybe starting to find their game. They find their game in the next week and suddenly they're back in the final again. An uphill battle for sure going up against Bell Hill, but it's hard to miss Kent's. They have a ton. They have a lot of college commits. They have a lot of younger good players. Lucas Husted Edwards has been phenomenal of late. So I don't know. That's not an easy matchup for Belmont Hill by any means.
Getting into the small school bracket, you might have arguably the best team not in the Elite Eight. It's probably them in Belmont Hill. You got number one Kimball Union against number eight Frederick Gunn, Berkshire versus Groton, Holderness versus Pomfret, and Tilton versus St. George's. What sticks out here?
Yeah, the 1 versus 8 matchup doesn't jump off the page. Kimball Union is a good team. I don't see them losing that. Frederick Gunn, I think, went 4-9-2 in their last 14 games. So you did math there. There we go. Bingo. So we got that. And then you have Berkshire and Groton. Berkshire's been really good. Holderness and Pomfret. I got to be honest, if Holderness stayed in the Elite Eight and they went up against Deerfield 1 as an 8 seed, I would heavily consider picking an upset there. I like Holderness. I think they're old. I think they're deep. They sort of have a little bit of everything. They don't have high-end talent like they did last year or high-end scoring, but they have just so much depth. So that would concern me if I'm Pomfret. But Pomfret, again, Pomfret at the beginning of the year in that first month was sort of a borderline top 10 team. So they're not to be overlooked. Most interesting matchup for the first round is Tilton and St. George's, 4 versus a 5. St. George's has the high-end talent edge for sure, especially on D. If you're Tilton, they're older. They have a lot of post-grads. They have seniors. That can often, as we said on the MIA side, that can often spell success going forward. Tilton's thing is how do you shut down Baldwin, Sinercha, and Walsh on D for them, and how do you get as many shots as possible? St. George's has been a little shaky in net, a little shaky in their own zone at times. So that's going to be the key for Tilton in that game. I don't know if to me, what I'm more interested in with the small school is the semis, because I think this could easily go chalk, and you've got most a 1 versus a 4, a 2 versus a 3, and that's when things get interesting. Because Berkshire, number 2, Berkshire has an incredible record. I mean, they wouldn't have shocked me if they got in the Elite Eight down the stretch. I know they lost to Brunswick, so that's where I think things are going to get really interesting in the small school is starting on Saturday with the semis.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a bold prediction you have in mind here. Seems like it's the chalkiest of the three early on.
I don't, but I will say. So if you want a bold prediction going forward,
Give us
wouldn't
the clickbait headline.
the clickbait head yes, that's right. Is Tim Whitehead out at Kimball Union if they don't win it in the small school? I'm kidding, obviously. Tim has a job for life there if he wants it. Holderness wouldn't shock me if they came out of this as the winners. They just lost to Kimball Union on Saturday night in the Lakes Region Final. They've gone back and forth with Kimball Union. As I said, I might have picked them for an upset in the Elite Eight. So, and they were in the Elite Eight up until the 11th hour. They got the big win over Dexter on Wednesday night. So, if you want a little hot take, Holderness going on a run here and winning the small school would be something I don't want to say I'm saying is going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked by it. Wouldn't be shocked by it.
As close to saying it's going to happen as you can possibly get.
I don't want to jinx these poor teams.
Hey, I thought of it when we were talking about Dexter. Cover jinx took a while. might be rearing its ugly head here.
Oh, that's a tough way to end this. That's a tough way to end this. But you're right. It might be. Unfortunately, it might be.
Well, there you have it. Quarterfinals begin Wednesday, semis on Saturday, finals on Sunday at UConn for boys. Champions will be crowned there. We will have predictions all throughout the week, reaction videos after each round. We'll have takeaway articles after each round. It's going to be a busy week, but stick with us
We've got
every
a
step of
lot
the way.
we've got to do. We've got a lot
Yeah,
coming up.
yes. Fortunately, we got ahead of a lot of this weekend stuff, so the early part of the week won't be as much of a grind, but plenty to look forward to on hockeyjournal.com, and we'll see you soon. See you at the rinks.
Bingo.